All right, we're gonna get started here. I want to thank everyone for coming out. This is the Welcome Home Center. I'm sure a few of you were coming in looking at everything like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed back here. It's like behind a Target, but it's like they're a little holistic wellness retreat center. And definitely you'll have to come out here if you've never been here another time to check out all the buildings because they have more grounds going all the way back there, more gardening and like yoga studio, food lab back here and everything. So I'm sure you'll have another chance. They open this place up all the time, and you're always welcome to come and check it out. But tonight we're here with Innovation Collective for our Fireside chat. And Innovation Collective, if you haven't heard, we're a grassroots initiative here in basically all of Hernando County, but we're really located in Brooksville. We're redoing we're redoing a venue there on the main street of Brooksville. It's the old Jennings building, and we're building a shared workspace there, private offices. But really, we're based around this purpose of helping each other find the magic within yourselves and do what brings the most value to the world. So that's kind of why we're here today to interview Dr. Maria. I know she's already bringing value to the world through her Welcome Home Center. So we're going to hear a little bit more from her about how she got started here, a little bit about her life, and just what success means to her and what being a healthier, more conscious living person means to her as well. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Dr. Maria.
Thank you, Sam.
So I just wanted to get started, and we just, some of us may have heard a little bit about you, but we just would love to hear about where you grew up, what kind of family that you came from.
Well, I grew up perhaps a few thousand miles from here. I come from I come from New York City. Yeah, anyone from New York City?
Oh, wow.
I came from a little borough in New York City called Brooklyn, and
Just a small place.
long time back. Yeah, a long time back. Sometime around 1961, I came into the world in Brooklyn, and my parents were they were second generation Italian American Italians. My grandparents were all first generation Italians. They came over, migrated over from mainly Sicily, but I had a few up on the peninsula as well, coming from the peninsula. So I have ancestors from all over the country of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have some smatterings of Irish in me and Native American. So
Okay.
I'm proud to say that I have. I've been created as a mutt. I'm a mixed, and so I'm kind of a universal individual, and I have no discriminatory cells in my body. So I have, I've kind of, got the mix of everything. And so Brooklyn, New York, and, lived most of my life there. That is almost half of my life there, about 34 years in New York.
Okay.
But I did travel around to the other boroughs and lived in, lived in Westchester, and I lived in New York City and Manhattan. And from Manhattan, we came down here to start our practice.
Okay. Now, did you attend school there? Like, did you go to college up in New York or around that area?
Mm-hmm. I went to college, university in Brooklyn. I attended Long Island University honors program.
Mm-hmm.
Proud to say that I was invited into the honors program. I had a little bit of a brain, and I tried to stay close to home. So I chose to stay in Brooklyn for my university teaching, my undergraduate teaching, because I had to be close to that one person that made a real big difference in my life, my mother, and I had to stay close to her. So I chose this university, which was not too far. It was a train ride away, about 30 minutes. And the trains were my mode of transportation, and I missed the trains. But it was interesting. So I went to school in Brooklyn and started out there.
hmm And at that time, I'm just wondering, why did you choose to go to college at that point in your life? What was important to you around that time?
I had the hopes and the expectations of achieving, a medical degree. I wanted to
hmm
become a physician. I knew I had to go there. I knew I had something to give with what I went through and my background. It was a serious goal of mine. And so I started out, with the hopes of getting through a 4-year program, get my bachelor's, and then take it from there.
hmm At that time during your college, do you remember what your first job was?
My first job, my
hmm
very, very first job, or my job out of.
I'd like to know what your very first job was. It could be good. And then love to know, like, right around that college time when you were kind of growing up, what was your first job? Yeah.
Well, I was a packer in a supermarket right around the corner from my apartment in
Okay.
Brooklyn. That was my first, and but my first paying job was as a cashier in another local grocery.
hmm
And back then we pressed buttons that pressed inward. There was some depth to those buttons. If
Okay.
you all remember, some here may not. So I learned how to do it the old fashioned way. And so got my exposure to dealing with the public, more of the public, and
hmm
so that was like a kind of my first job.
hmm
Going through high school, I really wasn't working. I was kind of playing. I was studying. I was kind of a science geek,
hmm
and I was a jock.
hmm
And I loved both. And
You were a geek and a jock?
yeah,
Okay. How'd you
yeah.
manage that one?
Ask me how I manage my
Yeah.
life right now.
Yeah.
It's it's just one of those things where
Yeah.
you do it, you do both. And so I really I had no time to work at that time. And yeah, it was mom and I.
hmm
And so I then finished high school, and my aspirations were to get to college. I broke my leg, and like my last year in high school, that was not fun.
Was
And
that sports or some other?
no, I was hit by a car
less?
while I was
Oh.
riding a bike.
Okay.
And so that was kind of painful. But my leg is strong, and it grew back strong. My bones knitted again. And so I started college. I had a walking cast on.
hmm
I started my university with a cast, but I didn't bother me. I just took my crutches and I ran up those stairs up to the L train. I used my my God-given arms, and I pushed
Jammed the
myself,
door.
and I did it. And so I started, and then the cast was off, and I also I had another job during the summertime. During the next summer, I was on Wall Street. I had some crazy job working in the Fed funds department of this big company on One Wall Street. That was weird, but it was a fun time. It was, so a friend of mine got me there, and so I was on the phone with people. I didn't even know what the heck I was doing. I was in this job; it just paid well, and here I am. I'm talking to people from all over the place, and it's like, okay, and there's an exchange of this and that, and monies, and don't ask me really what I was doing. So federal funds. Anyhow, so it was a good time. I had a good time that summer, and then back to university, and in pursuit of my my career goals. But because I was close to home, I wanted to stay close to home. I wanted to finish up and get my degree and specialize in respiratory therapy.
hmm
And one of the reasons I did that was because of an experience I had with my grandfather, my dear grandfather, who ended up on a ventilator. It was really a powerful experience, and seeing what someone like that struggling at his last days of his life on a ventilator. It was the first
hmm
time I would see a mechanical ventilator.
Mm.
And it just kind of set things off with me, and I had to be close to people in the hospital, and it was my opportunity before I went to my true goal before I was going to get to medical school, I wanted to work as a therapist. And actually, I had to, for reasons that I had to stay close to home. So medical school was pretty rigorous. So I chose an allied health profession. And then it just so happens that the timing was incredible because my mom was not well, had to make sure she was taken care of. So I had myself land a job that was not too far away. I was able to be with her, make sure she was cared for, and so on and so forth. Again, I explained some of that in my book. And then, I became a registered therapist, learned a whole lot, got to know so much about patient care. And I connected with people, and I learned about mechanical ventilators, and I knew how to intubate, put tubes in lungs, and take tubes out. And my goal was always to get the tubes out as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so I started, my university. After university, I started my career as an allied health professional, as a respiratory therapist. Taught me a lot. And I worked as a therapist for years, and then things happened. The story unfolds from there.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot in between that point and where we are today. Can you think back to any time between that point? What would you consider one of your greatest accomplishments in your professional life since then?
Yeah. Well. There are several.
Yeah.
I'll mention two, if I may. Well, one was as a therapist. I was a go-getter. I was very dynamic. I was aggressive. I had people who worked with me, other therapists, who didn't like the fact that I was so aggressive, because I got to know all the doctors, and I used to teach the doctors about ventilators because they knew nothing about them. They didn't know anything about what a ventilator did, how to turn it on, or how to change settings, or how to ventilate people. It's a lot. So I was very aggressive, and I was I was in a situation where this young man, he was a construction worker. He's probably in his 30s, and here I was, a little younger than he was, but not much. But here he was on a ventilator, and he had developed ALS. He was, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and he couldn't breathe. And he and his wife were there in the hospital, and something happened on the ventilator off of my shift. And I went on shift, and everybody was trying to figure out what was going on with the vent, and no one could figure it out. It's like we had to troubleshoot. We had to figure these things out. What happened? There was something going wrong, and there was a leak in the vent. So he was stressing. He was sweating, his heart rate was going up. There was a lot of things happening, and I did a troubleshoot on the ventilator. I checked every little item, and discovered his leak, restored it, and everything just all the waters just calmed. And his wife was standing there and couldn't believe it. He was quiet. People came in, and they saw that the man was now stable. And it was like something that I knew I just had to do. I had to do it. I had to fix it. I had to fix this guy's ventilator so that he had a perfectly closed system, because he had a trach.
Yeah.
And it was leaking. So I had to figure it out, and I did. And I was happy that I did that. And she was just so grateful to me, wanted to have a big plaque made for me. I said, please, ma'am, don't. I mean, people as it is, they resent me, and they don't want me, I wouldn't want to feel like, like I'm a Miss Know-it-all. I even had my technical director who could not find the leak. So I was kind of their little heroine. And I didn't want to be recognized.
Yeah.
But they did. They recognized me. They gave me a plaque. I was given an award and all that for helping save this person. So that was kind of like something I could remember, a very
I'm
memorable experience.
In that moment when that was happening and everyone else was kind of freaking out and didn't know what to do, what was going through your mind as you were just there and focusing on that? I knew what I had to do, and I said, I just need to take care of this man. Okay. And it was just I guess the instinct in me, which I had, because I was also an EMT, and I had that knowledge to get to the point, get there, fix it, do what you have to do, and save this life.
So I had, I had known that, and I was an EMT when I was, just around my later high school years. But yeah, that was a pretty memorable experience. And then in my medical career, yeah, there are several of them. But saving gallbladders, there were 3 cases of women, and I'll just put them all together as one. But there were 3 women in 3 separate situations where I helped them flush their gallbladders. They were all saved. They did not need their gallbladders removed because they were all kind of on schedule to go to the OR to have their gallbladders removed. And so in 3 separate instances with, their own situations, I had an opportunity to help them overcome their gallbladder problems. And to this day, all 3 women have their gallbladders, and that's years and years ago.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask now, how about something outside of your work? What's your greatest accomplishment outside of work right now in your actual life?
My greatest accomplishment, I mean, if you consider being a mother accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I am privileged. I'm honored to be the mother of 4 beautiful children who, a couple of them are adults now. One of them is right here. He's right near me. And that was, to me, something that I just kind of said, hey, this is wonderful. My life has completely changed with the birth of my first. My whole life I knew was going to change right there and then. I said, oh my God, now I've got to do another something else here. I have another responsibility, and here I go, and I've got to try to balance my life, and I did, and I, to the best of my ability, I made it happen. And it's funny because I started having kids when you're supposed to stop, and that's like age 35. So I started having kids at 35, and I stopped at 46. So I just kept going, and it's funny because they came every 4 years. Somehow that was the magic number, 40 years. So those, I have to say that my children, that was like my super duper accomplishment for that time, for those times. But there was still more.
Okay. No, that's great. And so the next question, and I'm glad you didn't use any of your kids for this example. Tell me something that hasn't worked out in your life so far. So any sort, you've accomplished a lot of notable things, something that didn't work out for you.
It's an interesting question because I can't say that things haven't. Everything that happened to me, whether it was, it was kind of a tough time, and I considered everything that happened to me a learning experience, something I could learn from, something I move on from, and just grow from. So.
Could you mention one of those, or like a lesson that you learned from something you can recall?
Yeah, well, if I can go back to my grade school days.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go there.
Yeah, I learned that, you can't reveal everything about yourself. You just can't do that. And I was more of an artist when I was a kid. And this is kind of an interesting story. I was in grade school, and I was in a school with nuns and priests, and I was an artist. So I would draw and sketch, and I was drawing the body of a woman on my desk, and it was quite the body. And I was
anatomically correct. Okay.
I was pretty young, but I knew what I was doing, and the little gal next to me pulled the paper right off my desk. I'm telling. Well, that a piece of art, which I don't know where it ended up, but at first it ended up in her hands. Then it ended up in the nun's hand in the front. And then I had everything. I didn't hold back. There was everything on that body. It's a good thing I didn't have a second body there. But I was told to stand up and get up into the front of the room and be embarrassed. And she said, "What is this?" And I was totally speechless, ready to lose my continence. So I totally embarrassed. And that, I just crawled with my tail between my legs, went back and sat. And, everybody kind of looked at me, and it was a lesson that I just can't reveal everything.
Yeah.
Especially in certain circumstances. But it's funny because I talk about the truth all the time and being authentic. So that was an authentic part of me that I wanted to draw and I wanted to sketch, and somebody didn't accept it at the time. So that was a lesson for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were doing what felt right to you. And look, I mean, I feel like that probably played into somehow maybe where you are today with your profession and everything, I'm sure.
I think so.
So so as you go about all these other things that you've accomplished in your life, can you come up with a definition for us for success?
Wow. Success is defined by so many different peoples and organizations, and to define it in a business sense is, it's just too cliche. You have to have the motivation, this, that. But it's true. There have to be certain elements that are must. They are the sine qua non of success. And success meaning, you accomplish something wonderful in your life. To me, success is accomplishing and that which is going to help not only me grow, or it's going to help my fellow person grow. So I'm here to help others grow, and that takes determination. It takes that determination to do it. You have to be determined. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get it done, and somehow it's going to. No matter how many times I fall, I'm going to get it done. I have to have the skill set. If I don't have them, I need to develop them more, or develop them to begin with if I don't have them. So if I really want to do something, I have to get the skills together. Determination. I got to have the skills together. I have to have the passion. I need to be passionate about what I'm going to do. And without that, not going to happen.
Right.
And then it's like, you execute, repeat, keep going. And be around those people who are going to help you grow. And there are a lot of people who help me grow. So it's like being around the right energies to help you succeed. If there's negative energy, something's not right, you feel it, you know it. And you do whatever you can to make it right. So if it means, getting away from certain persons or environments, then you have to do that. Just be where it's going to be beneficial to you and to the people around you, and like I said, just get away from the negativity. So it's really all about having certain assets, and you need to be determined to succeed, and stay with it. You got to stay with it. You got to be steadfast and hold it all the way. Never let it go. And it's just like self-sustainable. You have to keep going, and it just keeps going, and it grows to whatever length or extent it has to. And if there's any glitch or problem, then you figure it out, and you make it better, make it work.
Yeah. I think you hit on something there when you're mentioning about skills or learning new skills. That's something we talk about all the time in terms of like curiosity and just like learning a new skill set in order to achieve whatever you're going for next. I think that's something that we all need to be doing that at no matter what point in your life you are. You're never too young or too old to be learning something new.
Absolutely.
If you think back to if you were coming out of college now, like today, where would you be investing your time?
Probably in what I'm doing now.
Okay.
I would be trying to build a healthy community through these programs, through education program with all of its components to help people understand what health is. And a lot of people don't know what it is. They think they do. I'm healthy. I don't have any aches or pains, so I'm healthy. Meanwhile, there are a whole lot of unhealthy items in that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be really looking to build and develop programs, centers like this, schools where people really learn how to take better care. Learning the basics. I think everybody should learn the basics, because I'm sure all of you went to school and really got very little, if any, nutrition, and learning how to garden, learning how to grow, home economics. I mean, home ec. How many people had home ec? Maybe a few, couple. Very few. You don't even hear about it anymore. They don't have it part of the school. So, I mean, I think we need to go back to what we used to, have in these programs, so that people can really, learn what health is about. We can't have health if we have everything artificial.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have health if everything is just technologically driven, especially in the technology now. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone way, way too far as I'm concerned. And we really have to look at it very carefully, because every one of us is subject to the effects of this super fast, high speed, artificial intelligence. And if we don't know how to deal with it and we don't treat it right, it can destroy us.
Mm-hmm.
As
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Hawkins very clearly said with his brain. If there's one thing we have to fear, it's artificial intelligence, because it can completely destroy us. And, let's get back to nature. We've disconnected in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's one big way. People just inside on technology all day. I mean, we've lost this outside thing, the outside world. We'd like to foster this kind of stuff here with our gardeners and children coming around, and all of you, invited to participate in the community gardens, to have that whole, that atmosphere really cultivated, and get these kids who need this. They need to know this information, because at the rate children are going in schools right now, I'm really nervous. So I would like to have, schools up and coming, which are all about teaching about life, really what to do, how to eat, how to grow, and all that. How to use nature and cultivate nature and keep her growing and not dump on her, and stop with this chemical bombardment and radiologic bombardment. It's too much.
Mm-hmm. So going off of that, I think that's great advice for us. What can you tell us the best advice that you've ever received? And also, could you tell us why it was important to you?
My best advice comes from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, who left his body a few years ago. My dad was fearless.
Mm-hmm.
He was fearless, and he instilled in me, or maybe gave me that fearless gene.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To be fearless is really part of that success thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can overcome fear or not have it, again, there's kind of a need in a survival sense. Okay, there's a lion there, I got to fear. But I mean, fearlessness really, in my way of looking at it, is to not be held back by anything that you believe in, and you need to go forward with it. And truth needs to be brought out, and we need to do that in every way we can, and not be afraid to do it, to say it, to execute truth. The Christ figure would talk about truth all the time. So truth to me is very important, and to be fearless in my endeavors, and to impart that to others, to let them know they don't have to fear. Again, the great FDR, and the fear, nothing to fear but fear itself is true. We don't have to fear when we listen to that which sounds and smells like it's a lie or it's propaganda, we need to wake up and say, hold on a minute, let me question what may be in front of me. What is it that you're saying? And I need to check it out fearlessly.
Okay. And okay, so you had some figures in your life that made an impact on you, your father and your mother, and think back through all the people that you've met and maybe even recently. Is there someone who stuck out to you as being the most innovative person you've met? And what can you recall that you respected most about them?
I have met some really amazing people in my life, and there's one lady who I met not too long ago, a few years back, and her name is Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva is a maverick. She is a lady who is from India. She's an Indian born, bred, and she still resides there to this day. She was a physicist. She was a quantum physicist. She was studied quantum physics. She was an economist. She was a maverick. She moved and shook people. I met her at Eckerd College, and she was giving a talk on on her position and her stance and how she's here to help protect the seeds, and she promotes biodiversity, and she is a definite GMO opposition. She's the opposition, right? So opposition. She's trying to teach us about protecting our seeds, those seeds which keep us alive. She grew up in a family where they were out and they were foraging, and seeds and biodiversity and all of that stuff was so special, so important to her. She knew its importance as she got older, and shared her knowledge and experience with so many people on how to cultivate and how to keep these seeds going and the importance of them and so forth. And she worked hard to get the big giant Monsanto out of India. It took her about 10 years. She worked hard, she fought, and she managed with all her efforts and so forth, and her organization Navdanya, she was able to push those people out with all of their chemicals and everything else, and how they were trying to patent everything and take the seed and have dominion over the seed, have dominion over nature. She, a powerhouse of a woman, was able to really to fight that force. She's about this big, and she wears a bindi in the middle of her forehead that's about that big, probably the only one who does. So she's very distinguished with that bindi. And she said, people always ask me, and she said, it's me. It defines me, and it has its own special meaning, and I guess it's sacred to her. It's part of her culture, but it stands out for sure.
There you go.
So maybe it's this, she has like this little Napoleon stature, tiny, but she's huge. So I was honored to meet her, to talk with her, to to see what she's done. She's written probably about 30 or so books. She's a brilliant writer. And one of her books, Make Peace with the Earth, is a great one. Seeds of Change, another. So Vandana Shiva is really, she was very powerful. And I was so glad to have met her. And hopefully one day I can visit her in India when I go back.
Okay. And I think that segues great into my next question, which was actually going to be, what are the top 3 books that you would recommend that everyone could read?
A lot of books.
Yes.
Top 3. Okay. First of all, I am very much interested in the philosophy or the lifestyle of the macrobiotic world. So I must say that Michio Kushi had a great influence on me. I had seen him. I never met him myself, but I had seen him. I'd been in the same room with him. He was very influential also. But Michio Kushi wrote some really phenomenal books, and the Book of Macrobiotics, I think everybody should read, because it kind of defines everything that I've done and that I want to do, I strive to do. Diane, my dear friend here, Diane, our wellness coach, she knows how I feel because we both see it similarly. And so the book of the Book of Macrobiotics, the universal way to health and happiness. That's the full time. The what do you call it? The DBA, whatever the line, the tagline is, the universal way to health and happiness. And it truly is. And I teach people this all the time. Another that for people who are trying to build on success, Maxwell Gladwell? Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Maxwell Gladwell. I mean, I mix his name up all the time. Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote The Outliers and The Tipping Point. Outliers, great book. Again, there's something that, anybody who, who wants to see what success is and how to, and all of the nuances and the idea of success and, how to get there and when you think you can't and so forth, and the people who are built for success. And I think The Outliers is a super book to use as a reference. The book by Bruce Lipton, Dr. Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Belief. This is really like transforming, in science. It was really breakthrough science where we understood the idea of the concept of epigenetics, and that we are not ruled by our genes. It's really our environment, and we can change when we want to, right? So that was very powerful. And I met Bruce Lipton as well. I had the pleasure of meeting him in South Dakota at a conference. And I gave him my book, and I told him I read your book, so you can read mine now. But he has some really important information in there, and he's like a teddy bear, but down to earth guy, and really knows what he's talking about. And so epigenetics, that's really what he was talking about, and that just took off because he was studying it. It was very innovative at the time. It was like the 1970s, and things just took off from there.
Yeah.
So Biology of Belief, that's a great book to read as well.
Okay. And I know you have a few of your own over here I saw too.
Yeah.
You author some books
So
too.
Like Be Consciously Healthy. And I was wondering if the cover of that book was good for men and women. I don't know. Is it okay? I mean, it has a white flower.
Yes. I mean, purity. I think it's
purity.
Good. Yeah.
So so this kind of puts things together for people. It's not all science. It's not something that you would get caught up in scientific jargon or medical words. This is really hitting home to anybody of most ages. Anybody who can read basic English will probably be able to understand this. And it's some lessons. It's all about awakening, nurturing, educating, healing, and so this was like my first shot at a book, and Awaken to Your Best Life, and it's sort of quasi autobiographical. I mean, I have some of my life in here, pictures. So that's one, and then the second book is The Conscious Eat, which is all about eating consciously. I mean, the word conscious obviously is a big part of my my verbal repertoire. And this is a different type of book, because it gets into the elements, air, fire, water, and earth. And I wrote this with Diane Friedberg, Friedberg King. And so this was really another achievement. And then I contributed a chapter to this book, which is the top 25 change makers, and the chapter in here about how entrepreneurs thrive through these challenging times. This was written by Andre Hampton, and so I was one of the 25 that put this together. and just telling people again how to get through, or how we all got through all this. We didn't close our shop once.
Right.
We did not close, and we kept it going. And I think that was the best thing to do.
Okay. So I have one last question, and then we can do a little bit of Q&A. If you guys are starting to think about something, we'll do some Q&A after this last question. So, but it is a big question, so bear with me here. So, what do you believe that our area, Brooksville, Spring Hill, Hernando County, has to focus on to grow into an economically vibrant city, but while also focusing on aging well? And this is over the next 5 years. How do you see that future playing out for us here?
Well, if we could make more of this, again, there's a lot that goes into planning and development and planning of this kind of a campus. But I think that if we encourage our youth, everyone here, everyone out there, to start putting their pieces together, because right now we're in kind of tough times. It's challenging. Lots of things are happening right now, and people really need to think about how they're going to make it. How are you going to make it in this world? I think that kids need to learn skills. They need to learn really living skills, not just cell phones. Okay. So like I said before, we need to, have like teaching institutions. I think we should develop some more schools around here that would be geared to teaching skills, excellent skills in how to, whether it's, the trades and so forth, but learning how to grow, and learning how to build, and using things, and learning recycling, and learning how to have zero waste if we can. I mean, that to me is a big problem, because our environment is really suffocating. They just found that they found so much microplastics in an infant's poop. More than that of an adult. There are microplastics in breast milk now. So if we're not teaching our parents to be our kids eventually, as they grow, about the dangers here, so recycling and using, biodegradable materials and all of that. I mean, really now, more than ever, we need it. Building these kind of institutions, which are relatively, easy to get to, have easy access to. It shouldn't be that they're too far away. I mean, people should have like a local little place, these smaller schools. We should have more health food outlets, healthy restaurants, startups, little startups, restaurants. These people, put your money together and start a little restaurant, start something, because we don't have that. We really don't. So we need to really cultivate this. The generations are coming, and they need to have a better future than that of just technology and ordering things on a certain site, and using search engines. And this is not life. I don't see this as the future, where we can really appreciate what life is. If we're going to turn everything into an artificial this or that, or we're going to become artificial, is that something to look forward to? I don't know about you, Sam, but I don't want to be half artificial. I mean, it's bad enough that we have to put in artificial joints and things like that, putting parts and pieces that are artificial in our bodies. But if we're going to start thinking like robots, and it's becoming more and more evident to me that is the push. That is the push. And I'm sorry, I'm pushing the other way. I'm pushing the other way. And I think that we need to build that more personally professionally, I think I need to teach people these very important principles.
Well, thank you. I think that as we're all here tonight, this is kind of shows like, this is authentic. It's not artificial. And I love that we can still do this and get together like this as a group of people and all friends and everything. So thank you all for being here as well too. We'll do a few questions. Does anyone have a question? And I'll come up to you and see if my mic can pick you up. All right.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. You said you were from Brooklyn and you've been down here how long?
26 years.
Okay.
26 years.
All right. So that's a while. We've just recently moved down from the New York area as well.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, when you came down, who were the mentors, may not be the right term, but who were some of the business professionals or professionals that you sought out that were helpful and a guide to you in the area versus outside the region?
We came down here in it kind of getting plugged into a practice. So my husband and I, Dr. Singh, and we joined someone's practice. And there's a whole story behind that. The reason why we came, was my husband had to change his status. He was coming from India. He had to have somebody sponsor him here. So in order to stay, right, in order to work and be a professional here, a physician. So we were here. We joined someone's practice who was very helpful to us, and then from there, we met so many people, from, lawyers to realtors, financial folks, the local business people. Immediately I had to know the health food store that was in the neighborhood. I started making connections right away with different colleagues, and then allied health professionals and insurance companies. So we kind of had it so that we were already connected. If you come down here and you're not connected, you need to get connected. So you need to get involved in whatever community business is going on, the chamber and all that, local community groups and so forth. And if you come into a retirement community or something like that, getting to know people through these clubs and everything. So, I'm not sure. Were you coming down to retire, or you continue? You're still working. You're still working.
Yeah. No, we're starting a business.
Okay. Wonderful. So, if you need any help with any connections, are you very local here?
Spring Hill, just the other side of town.
Yeah, if you need any advice or any help, I kind of know a few people.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have a question? Yes. That's a good question. There are countries right now in so much turmoil, as you know. But as far as in any one particular country, I would just say that Okinawa. If I had to say where I'd like people to look toward, in the island or Japan, Okinawa, that would be a place where people could look toward as as a model. In these other countries right now, there's so much upheaval. So I'm not even sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I look to other places. I've been looking around on the map, and it's kind of really tough to find a place, like even, to go and visit and to learn from. There's turmoil everywhere. And so I'm not sure right now, other than, like a place like that is something that I admire. I admire their culture and how healthy they are and how healthy they've been. But yeah, other than that, these other countries are questionable. It's questionable what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. You have a question? Yep.
Oh boy, I'm gonna throw one out there. What do you think about the Amazonian plant medicines and that there's now all over the place, Mexico, everywhere else, they're getting shamans and they're doing retreats and
Mm-hmm.
doing these. Sometimes they're a month long, sometimes they're a weekend long of pure therapy. Of course, doing a lot of things. It's not just plant medicine. It's yoga. It's therapy, talk therapy. It's all kinds of stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, you bring up a good point. If there's a country that, another country that we could look at, it's perhaps, Mexico. There's such, I'm not sure what's going on between all these border things, and there's so much happening here. But in Mexico, has been for a while. It's been a place that people have gone to for therapies and to learn and to really escape whatever, like in a political asylum or medical asylum, get out of here to try to practice their whatever their profession is, if it's going to be a natural profession or using herbs or using some other things like the Hoxsey formula.
Mexico is big. Dental health in Mexico is big. All those things that we
Yeah.
have here on the borders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a trend. I just don't know what my question is, but just seeing where it take you to think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to, I'd love to see those things that are going on there here. As this young man just asked me this question, and that Mexico is probably, the other place that I would say between that and Okinawa. Those are the places to look at. But I think that it's wonderful, and if we had the same kind of system here that they do there, where there's really no government interference in their medical, their whole, their treatment, their health arena. There's no interference. So you can do what you want down there, at least as far as I know. I have not really studied them in depth, but as far as I know, there have been people have come and gone from there and clinics that have been set up there. I know there was a Hoxsey clinic in there. Hoxsey, the Hoxsey clinic. Yeah.
Treating addiction.
Hoxsey, Hoxey. He was somebody who was here on this turf in the U.S. and he had a formula that he was giving to people and curing cancers with, and as such, he was literally thrown out. He was arrested. He had all kinds of problems with that, as did others. So he ended up in down in Mexico. Actually, I think his daughter, he had passed away, and his daughter started a clinic down there. And I'm not sure if it's still open, but we can certainly look into that. I don't know.
You bring up there's a term for that where you travel to a different country to do some sort of healthcare. What's it? Medical tourism. Yeah. Well, this next week we're actually bringing someone in to speak at our summit, which is on Friday and Saturday, and he basically was there was some number, he knows more about this than I do, but there's some number to him that was alarming, that he was at a high risk of prostate cancer, and through just his own went home, delved into research, and through his own research just created his own program that was just based on exercise, fitness, and mostly eating. And there was some way he found out to take some sheath around the cancer cells and be able to, through nutrition, attack the cancer, so that was the only thing that was being diminished in his body, and then went back a year or so later, and that alarming number had turned into a number that was fine. So I guess what I'm saying is there is medical tourism, but he's coming next week, and we're trying the best that we can to make Brooksville a focus on healthcare, on aging well, on longevity, so that just like this center that you're sitting in right now, more of these places can crop up around Brooksville. This is a great place with, it has a larger above 55 community. That's just what it is around here. And with the hospitals and the access to transportation with 75, this really could be, and it also is close to nature. There is a lot of stuff out here on 19, but just on this side,
Right.
you're pretty close to the Gulf. You're pretty close to some nature, and so it's actually a really great place, a serene place to kind of perhaps open up more of these kind of like healthcare aging clinics that are based around wellness.
Mm-hmm. I went to one, and before I YouTubed it and tried to study
Yeah.
it and everything, and and somebody said, well, it's like getting 10 years of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in the retreat, I don't know what their retreat was. Maybe it was a
Well,
whole month.
Yeah. Well, we hope something like that could come to this area too. And so definitely thank you for bringing that up. And I hope that we make that a conversation with more people. And it doesn't take just one person, but perhaps a team of people to actually bring something like that here, as long as it's technically legal and everything. Yeah.
All doctors will say that your disease, they can do certain things, and
Yeah.
they can do surgery,
Yeah.
and they can do this, and they can do that.
Yeah.
But 90% of your healing is
Mhm.
on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there, to be whole, you have to have supportive things
Yeah.
to help you achieve your part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we all should try to do that as well. So that we'll keep that a topic of conversation. Thank you. Well, I think it is getting late. It's getting a little bit darker, but the fire is still glowing a little bit. Thank you all for coming out and being a part of this with us tonight. Innovation Collective is doing a summit next weekend on the 22nd and 23rd. If you'd like to find out more about that, definitely stop by with me. I'll give you my card and I can tell you all about that next week. And I want to thank you, Dr. Maria, for opening up your wonderful space for us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. And yes, please, before you leave, come say hello and meet a new friend while you're here. I think that'd be great for all of us. Thank you.
We don't have too many lights under these things, so but
No, but we still
we have all of our little lights here.
Yeah, just use night vision or something.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll use night vision. That's right.
That's the one artificial thing I can accept. Give me some night vision or something.
That's right.
Yeah.